Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Inside the Foul podcast brings you the opinions and perspectives of a couple best friends. And if you don't like that call, we've got 3 words for you. You're out of here. We are your hosts, barely surviving the summer heat in Florida, Chris and Ethan.
Oh, don't remind me. I'm trying to take my family to Disney, okay? And my wife's not having it.
Oh, Disney in the summer. That sounds like the happiest place on earth and not a fun experience when I'm sweating. All right, so let's get into it. Every once in a while, you get the chance to sit down with someone whose story reminds you that baseball is about much more than wins, losses, and box scores. Today's guest is one of those people. Tom Kohler, Tom Kohler's journey wasn't built on hype. It was built on earning everything. From Stony Brook University, where it became one of the greatest pitchers in program history, piling up 297 career strikeouts before eventually earning induction into the Stony Brook Hall of Fame, to hearing his name called in the 18th round of the MLB draft, Tom carved out a path that proves perseverance can be just as powerful as talent. He went on to spend 6 seasons in the major leagues with the Miami Marlins before finishing his career with the Toronto Blue Jays, appearing in 161 big league games, making 133 starts, throwing more than 780 innings, and striking out 604. Those numbers represent years of consistency, durability, and competing against the best in the world. But what makes Tom's story especially unique is what happened beyond the mound. While competing at the highest level, he served as a player representative for the MLB Players Association, working directly with fellow players, serving on the board of directors, and helping shape conversations surrounding collective bargaining and the future of the game. That's leadership that doesn't show up on the back of a baseball card. It earns the respect of an entire clubhouse. Today, Tom has taken everything he's learned through the highs, the setbacks, the pressure, and the lessons that only professional baseball can teach, and he's pouring it back into the next generation. He works closely with pitchers to develop not only their mechanics, but also something that often gets overlooked, the mental side of the game. Because as every player eventually learns, the toughest battles aren't always against the hitter standing 60 feet, 6 inches away. They're against the voice inside your own head. So today we're talking about development, leadership, and the realities of life in a major league clubhouse, what it means to represent hundreds of players in the MLB Players Association, and how the game changes when your mission shifts from chasing your own dream to helping someone else achieve theirs. Tom, it's an honor to have you with us. Welcome to Inside the Foul.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's a good intro. You did a lot of research.
I appreciate that. Listen, you've got plenty of stuff for me to research and find anyway. Yeah. So, you weren't a highly touted prospect coming out of college. What point did you truly believe playing in the major league was a realistic possibility?
It's interesting because I wasn't necessarily highly touted out of college, but I was out of high school. And, there was a time where teams were coming to my house trying to draft me directly out of high school. And the money was a lot different back then, signing bonus wise, than it is today, where, even a top 4-round pick, you're looking at maybe 150,000. So it wasn't anything that was gonna set me up for the rest of my life. And honestly, my mom was really adamant on me going to college. She felt like I wasn't mature enough to play professionally yet, and while I disagreed at the time, there's no doubt that she was 100% right. So yeah, it just then I struggled a little bit early on at Stony Brook, and I always pitched well in the summer ball leagues that I played in, the collegiate leagues, but for some reason when it came to like adults with metal bats, it never worked well for me. But when they got wood bats in their hands, it worked. But the thought of the major leagues was never really the thought. It was hey, I want to get to Double-A and do well there, and then hopefully I can parlay that into a college coaching job or some sort of job in baseball. It wasn't until I got to Double-A and had success there that I really started thinking maybe I could do this at the highest level.
So you were drafted in the 18th round. What was that moment like for you? I know the later rounds are not as televised. But
back then, nothing was televised.
Oh,
It was,
really? Okay.
no, it was all like you had to listen on MLB radio online. It would just be like come across all staticky. Um, they didn't even televise the first few rounds. It was weird because earlier in the draft, I got a phone call. I think it was the fourth or fifth round. I won't name the team, but I remember the conversation, and they're like, "Would you sign here?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." They even told me what the bonus would be and all that, and then they never called back. So I ended up having I had to wait till the 18th round. I started to, unfortunately, after being passed up your junior year of college, and then you're sitting there in the 15th, 16th, 17th round, you start thinking maybe it's not going to happen. But the area scout from the Marlins called, and he's like, "Do you still want to play baseball?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay." that was it. It wasn't, I signed for $1,000. That was the going rate for a senior sign at the time. So you're basically signing for a plane ticket and a chance, So it's not as lucrative even now as it is in those later rounds where guys are signing for 150,000 or sometimes more based on the bonus pool that's available. But yeah, so it's just a lot of waiting and kind of let's see where this goes, and luckily for me, it lasted probably longer than anybody thought it would at the time.
Well, so you talk about, how, that you didn't, being drafted in the 18th round, did you have a chip on your shoulder with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that played with me knows I had a chip on my shoulder pretty much about everything. Um, I definitely wanted to prove that I was as good as the guys that they took before me.
Right.
I remember going to our mini camp. Like after we signed, they flew us all to Jupiter, Florida, and after we got drafted, they flew us all there so we could sign. And I watched other guys throw pens, and I threw a pen, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm better than that guy. And then I was like, I think I'm better than that one too. So I started looking around. I'm like, I felt like if they gave me a chance, I could show myself. But I knew that it was going to take a lot of constant success to kind of get that chance, right? Like, you know, everybody gets the opportunity, but when you're a first rounder, your opportunity lasts a lot longer. When you're an 18th rounder, you got a few games, and then that could be it for you. If you're not showing, plus stuff or something to make them want to keep you around.
So you talked about the double A when you kind of hit your stride. What was it like grinding through the minor leagues at that time?
Well, interestingly enough, a lot of guys that I played with at the lowest levels, they were like depressed and homesick because they had been coming from these major programs, Florida State, Mississippi State, places like that where they're catered to. Even back then, like they have locker room attendants, they've got food cooked for them, people doing their and then I'm coming from Stony Brook where we were taken care of well, but our locker room was half a mile away from our field. We're in Jamestown, New York, and guys are complaining, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I have a locker room that I can walk back and forth from a dugout to. Like to me, like I've made it already there. So I never looked at it as a grind. I thought it was fun. I mean, the the long bus rides from Greensboro, North Carolina to Lakewood, New Jersey, and then playing that night, that sucked. But you know, other than that, it was a great experience. Like you're riding buses with the boys, you're stopping at gas stations and slamming rotisserie chickens because that's like all you can afford, and it's the healthiest option. Is here or that or Papa John's or Domino's. So it was kind of that I started to realize like I might just through attrition I might just outlast some of these guys.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can do this. I can ride this bus all night. I'm good with it.
See, I felt like in 2010, because I got to watch you pitch for the Jacksonville Suns a couple times, I felt like you had more confidence than a lot of
Yeah.
pitchers on that team. Like someone that actually got to watch you play, I felt like because we lived like 10 minutes from the stadium and we would
that's
go,
awesome.
And I felt like you
Baseball's
had more...
never been hotter.
Yes. And there's not many
Yes.
people that know that slogan. So, like, honestly, I kind of got chills hearing that again because I haven't heard that in forever.
Yeah,
But
I'll go through that a little bit. Like when I got the end of 2009, I got called up to high A, and I pitched pretty well. And it's funny, like my promotions always seem to come like the times I never thought they would happen. Like I had a really bad start for Greensboro, and I remember talking to my dad after. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like I got the shit kicked out of me, and maybe this isn't it. And he's like, nah, you'll be all right. And then like I got called up like 2 days later. So it made no sense. And then I pitched really well in high A. So going into that spring training, I was with the double A group, but usually what happens is you start in a higher group than you're in, and you kind of backtrack when the guys from big league camp get sent down. But guys kept getting sent down, and I wasn't moving. I was sitting in, and it was the same manager that had me in high A at the end of the season was the double A manager. And he told me, he's like, you're good, you're good, you're good. My first start, I think I gave up 3 or 4 runs without getting an out. And I'm like, oh man, I had a shot. I didn't, this is too, maybe this is it. This is too much for me. And he comes out, and I think he's about to take me out of the game. And he just looks at me and goes, can I curse on here? Is that okay?
yeah, sure. Yeah.
He looks at me and goes, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? I'm like, what? He goes, you're too fucking good for this. He's like, clear your head and let's fucking go. And I'm like, all right. And then I ended up pitching great the rest of the game. I don't think I gave up another hit. And then after that, I was like, he's got my back. I'm gonna prove him right too, because I'm sure he stuck up for me to make sure that I could be at that level. And when I was out there, I felt like I was playing with house money. I was like, you know what? Nobody here expects me to do this. And then as the season went on, it just every time I took the ball, I was like, we're gonna win. It was a really nice feeling because we did. Pretty much every time I pitched, we won. I mean, I won 16 games that year. In the minor leagues, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't. And that's, and you weren't pitching against just anybody. You were pitching against really good names even at that time in AAA.
Yeah. I mean, even the guys I was pitching against. I mean, in that league and in the Southern League at that time, there was only 10 teams.
Yeah.
So you're playing everybody 5-game series all the time. So I'm pitching against Chris Archer is starting against me like 10 times a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, we're like, come on. So then you're in the stands with those guys. And like, I think Odorizzi was on that team for the Rays too. And then you just look at the whole league, like the Mobile had a great team that year too. Bunch of guys make it to the big leagues. That Jacksonville team, I think I went through the list once. I think 20 out of the 25 guys
Made it.
played in the big leagues for the Marlins, or if not the Marlins, at least at some point. Like it was an incredible team of just like talent everywhere.
And what's crazy is it's crazy. Like now looking back, hearing that again, how talented that team was, and I felt like if y'all didn't play those teams so many times, y'all probably would have won the Southern League probably 3 years in a row. But I felt because that league was built the way it was, I'm like, my dad's like, we're going to a game. And I'm like, we just saw this team. Can I see another team?
And it was a cycle. It's like you played there, and then you drive to Birmingham, and then you play Mobile, and then you come back home, and you play West Tennessee again. And it's just like over and over and over again. But it was fun. Like it that year kind of gave me the confidence of being like, actually, it just reminded me of another story. So at the time, Dan Jennings was our general manager.
Right.
Yeah.
General manager turned eventual Marlins manager. Right. He was a guy that always had my back from the moment that I got drafted. He would come to town and I don't know. I think I pitched poorly, and he called me into the office. He's like, what was that? And I'm like, he's like, every time I come to see you, you pitch like shit. And I'm like, yeah, but like, would you rather me pitch well all the other times and just bad the one time you're in town? Or, and then he got on me for like, he's like, I don't even care about the results of the game. He's like, that wasn't you. He's like, you're a bulldog. You're our guy. He's like, I don't know if we're going to trade you and you're going to help us win at the big league level that way, or if you're going to pitch for us at the big league level. But you need to be yourself. And I from that moment on, I'm like, I got to go. I got to pitch it like myself, controlled aggression. I realized people were really watching what I was doing, because at that time, up until that point, I really didn't think they were.
Wow.
Man.
So can you take us back to the day that you got the call from AAA to the majors? Like, what did that look like for you?
Just like anything else, it was not a day like that's really believable. So I we had a hurricane in New Orleans. That's where our AAA was. So they had to move our games to Round Rock, Texas. They canceled the rest of the season in New Orleans. I was pissed because I had a start rained out earlier in the year. So I was at like 148 innings. And I'm like, I got to pitch at least 150. Like, I'm not going backwards from where I just was the year before.
Right.
I pride myself on taking the ball, pitching a lot of innings. So I got to the field. They called me in because it was like about to be September 1st. Like, hey, I know you were an all-star this year, AAA, but yeah, they're not going to call you up. And I'm like, all right, well, I said, I need 2 more innings. Can I throw out of the pen tonight? And they're like, I don't think so. Let's call the brass and see if you can. About 10 minutes before game time, they're like, yeah, if you want to, you could have it. I went out and I was throwing 96 out of the bullpen. After the game, I threw all my stuff away because my season was over. Cleats, everything. I'm like, all right, I got nothing. We hopped on a bus with 2 other teammates because everybody else flew home from there. Me and Brad Hand, oddly enough, drove the bus back to New Orleans because we were going to drive my car back to his house in Jupiter to start the off season. And like halfway through the bus ride, the manager calls me from the other bus because we had 2 buses for 4 people. and I'm face first in a Big Mac, and I'm eating like cookies and cream Hershey bites because I'm like, my season's over. Like, time to go on my 2-week food bender before I get things going again. And he's like, they changed their mind. They need you in Miami tomorrow. As soon as we get back to New Orleans, you're flying out. I'm like, what? Like, they just told me I wasn't. They're like, yeah, well, they want to see you more out of the bullpen now. I'm like, oh God, all right, cool. So that's how it was. And then I went there. Ozzie Guillen walks up to me at the food line, and he goes, "Oh, somebody must not like you. What took you so long?" I'm like, Ozzie, man, I don't know. I just go where they tell me. Same with the Hawk. Andre Dawson was like riding the bike next to me, and he like looked over, and he's like, "Oh, about time." I'm like, well, hey, listen, you're a Hall of Famer. You could have pulled for me a little sooner. So yeah, and then it took a few days to pitch. I didn't pitch particularly well. I pitched well my first inning. My second inning, I didn't. I honestly, after the first, I thought I was done. So I was kind of like adrenaline dump. Then I didn't pitch again for like 3 weeks. I just sat there, and then I pitched one more time, and after that, I pitched every other day for the rest of the season. So it was an interesting way to get the call. It wasn't. They didn't call me in the office with a hidden camera so everybody can see it on Twitter. Like, no, they got me face first in a Big Mac.
That's great.
And that's the one and only Big Mac I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh,
I've never had one.
Really?
I never had one before. I was like, I'm depressed. I'm going to try one. It was fire, though.
but at least it's a memorable Big Mac, though.
That's why I can't have another one.
Yeah,
my heart
it's
doesn't
never
work
gonna...
anymore. I'm not getting called up anywhere. So
I mean, that's valid. I mean, I think that's one of the best bus stories we've got.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
well, the worst part about that bus story though is that my car was still in New Orleans, so Brad drove it back himself, and didn't get the call at the time to come back up. So it was a little, hey bud, can you still do me this favor and bring my car back? Appreciate you.
So when you made it to the majors, right, you talked about, your little 3-week stint and then every other day. Was there ever a moment where you kind of got a You realized that the competition was different, or like a welcome to the big leagues moment?
Yeah, I mean, my second inning of my first outing, I gave up 2 homers, and one to Corey Hart and one to Ricky Weeks, and they weren't necessarily bad pitches, but they were hit a long way. Then after, I I pitched against the Atlanta Braves another time, uh, and faced Chipper Jones at Turner Field in his last year, and he hit a ball to like deep, deep, deep warning track, and I was like, oh shit, I just gave up Chipper's last home run. It didn't go out though. But no, the welcome to the big leagues moment didn't come until the next year. I was pitching against the Twins, and I threw a 3-2 nasty backdoor curveball to Joe Mauer.
Ooh.
My whole life, if I threw that pitch, the guy was going to get his glove, right? Like it was strike three. Not to Joe Mauer. He smoked it down the left field line for a double, and I was like, oh, okay, even that pitch has to be located better. I don't know how to do that yet, but that was kind of like facing guys like him, and in 2013, Miguel Cabrera almost took my head off one at bat. That was kind of like all right, it's not, and it's more like, hey, these guys are super talented, just like the guys you face in the minors, but they're just talented a lot more consistently. So you can still get them out. You just got to kind of do things the proper way. Otherwise, you're screwed.
What were the biggest adjustments you had to make those first couple of years?
Oddly enough, like not a ton. It just was like being comfortable getting guys out in the strike zone. In the minors, if I got to 2 strikes, I could bounce a curveball. It was strike 3. Bounce a slider, strike 3. In the big leagues, like you got to be able to, if you're going to strike guys out, you got to be able to do it with strikes also. Otherwise, they're not going to just always honor that ball in the dirt. So, and just like maybe up in preparation a little bit, just like studying the hitters and tendencies, because the tendencies, like, they're legit. I knew if I was facing Chase Utley the first at bat and there was nobody on, I could underhand a ball right down the middle and he was going to take it for a strike. Like he wasn't going to swing. But if there's a guy on second base, even though he didn't swing at 80% of first pitch curveballs, if you threw him a first pitch curveball with a guy in scoring position, you better throw a good one because he's going to hammer it. Like I learned that the hard way. So it's the tendencies are there for a reason. Like the guys are, oddly enough, it became harder to go like in spring training, going to pitch on the backfields in like GCL games and stuff, because those guys didn't have a plan. They would swing at the rosin bag if you threw it. So it didn't, like, they're just up there whacking, and then you'd go and you'd have guys in the big leagues that would let you get to 2 strikes because they're looking for one specific thing. So it was just kind of the mental battle back and forth of trying to beat them at their own game.
Was there a start or a performance that sticks out to you that means a lot to you personally?
My first win in San Francisco, it wasn't like, I mean, I carried a no-hitter into the 6th, I think. So that was pretty cool. But it was like my 9th start. Like I was like, we got to get this at some point, right? Like there's no way there's no way I could just continue to pitch and never win a game. It was cool though. Like my wife took the trip to San Francisco, so she got to be there for it. It was from that point on, I always pitched well in that ballpark. I think people always ask me like, what's your favorite ballpark? And I definitely have bias, but it's that one because like I pitched well and got my first win there. I mean, that's that one up there.
Oh, man.
It's the lineup card and a ball from it, and like her tickets from the game. It's really cool.
Awesome.
It's signed by everybody on both teams.
Oh man,
So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
So, I know you probably didn't think of it, but did anyone like point out or act differently in those first 6 innings, knowing you had a no-hitter going?
No, I think
because you always hear about it on TV. Like they're always talking about it, and I'm like, does it really go on, or is it just a TV angle?
Listen, when like when Jose was pitching, everybody was weird the whole game because he had a no hitter like through 4 innings every night. So like, but I think when I was pitching, they were like, there's no way he has one. We're good.
Oh,
They didn't realize it. So no, I the only one for some reason it's popped in my head is Danny Echeverria. I feel like he like sat down right next to me, which was weird, and like started using my towel that game. And I think somebody grabbed him and told him to move, and he had no idea why. But to be fair, it took him. I think it took 6 years for him to know my first name.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Man.
So
I was just Kohler to him. That was it.
fair enough.
at least you weren't Pee Wee.
No, he got
Like-
he got 50% of it right.
So you spent 6 years in the majors and 780 innings, like we said before. What separates the pitchers who stay from the ones who don't?
I think a lot of it is like I was saying. It's the preparation. It's what you do between starts. Like, there was a quote that I used to live by when I was in high school. That was it's a Roger Clemens quote. It's like, my only easy day is the day I pitch. Like talking about how hard he works the days in between the starts. And I took a lot of pride in like working really, really hard in between starts. Unless you're just incredibly gifted to where you can just show up, punch people out, and go home, like you gotta love the work. A lot of people want to be a big leaguer, but they don't necessarily love what it takes to be one. It's not just the followers on Instagram and the blue check marks. It's showing up the days that you feel like shit, knowing that you got to go run 3 miles and deadlift and lift for 2 hours because you just pitched the day before, and whether you drank 10 beers on the plane that night before or anything, you still got to do the work. That's the difference. Showing up to do the work when you really don't want to.
See, and is that part? So today you spend a lot of time helping develop pitchers. Is that something that you impart wisdom wise for these young players? And
yeah, I try to. It's tough. I think it's tougher now than ever because, for the most part, a lot of these guys have been followed on some sort of social media since they were 12 years old, 13 years old, right? Perfect Game will post a swing of a guy hitting a ground ball through a hole and being like, tremendous swing from 2042 draft eligible guy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so that kid sees it and they start building this like feeling of not necessarily like elitism, but they definitely, they think there's more value to them than there is. So it's almost like a reverse recruiting of like, yeah, you're good at this, but if you don't change what you're doing, like it might not work out how you think. Don't try to build the brand before there's a brand to build.
right.
Like I'm all for it. Like you want to work your ass off and you become a great player and you want to market yourself because now you've earned it. Go get what's yours. But like too many people are caught up in like worrying about posting how hard they threw in a cage somewhere, but then they show one pitch or two pitches and then they turn the camera off and then they don't work. They're not working anymore. Like work with the camera off too.
And so that's a big thing. Social media is such a big thing, not only to be seen, but, to be looked at and people just want to show off. But what's the biggest mental struggles you think young pitchers or young players face today?
I think a lot of it starts with, you deal with being homesick. It is a different game. I mean, you can be from, some small town in the United States, and then you go to either Florida or Arizona after the draft, and the complex leagues are predominantly Latino leagues, right? You got guys who they don't speak English, so now you're maybe around different cultures than you haven't been before. Your whole life you've been pampered and taken care of, and now you show up, and it's like if you don't perform, you're out. So you're dealing with like a whole new level of pressures in a completely foreign environment. I mean, foreign, like not necessarily like culture foreign, but like you're just not in your town anymore.
Yep.
So you don't maybe have the same. So like that's what I try to be the support system, right? I know that these guys are gonna struggle at some point. We all did. Everybody does. Like there's a very few guys who get drafted, go to the big leagues, win Cy Youngs, and that's all, and then they're in the Hall of Fame. Like at some point, the struggles might be different. I struggled in 2017. I got sent back to AAA. Somebody else might struggle and they just have like 3 bad starts. But either way, it could impact them mentally the same. So you just got to
Well,
help navigate that.
well, when a pitcher has a rough outing, what's that first conversation you're having, that coaches don't always have?
Well, it's tough. You hope that the coaches are having good conversations, right? Like you got to remember these guys. The coaches are the guys that are with them every single day. They are so the one thing I never want to do is jump in and step on a coach's shoes who's been there every day grinding, doing the paperwork. I want to be an additional support beam, So I know for me, like especially in the big leagues, like having a bad start as a starting pitcher is the worst thing in the world because you don't get to play again for 5 days. And
Yeah.
like, you show up to the ballpark, you do your lift, but then you're sitting at the corner on the corner of the dugout and you're popping sunflower seeds for 3 hours. And then you got like guys looking down. It's like, oh, look at him enjoying his sunflower seeds when he gave up 6 runs yesterday. They don't actually say that, but sometimes that's how it feels, right? Because if you go 0 for 3 with 3 Ks as the starting left fielder, you get to play the next day. As a starting pitcher, you don't. So it's about being able to reset. When you get to that bullpen day in between starts, that's got to be the day where you're working on what didn't work for you, but you're also completely forgetting the last start because you gotta prepare for the next one.
So, what is something fans think is a physical issue with pitchers that's actually just mental? That we don't see on TV or during practice?
So I think a lot of times, like, all the guys have really good stuff, right? Like it's not like they're just losing their stuff or their ability. I mean, honestly, my best stuff year in the big leagues is probably my worst performance. So I think a lot of times mentally, it's when things start to go bad, right? And not being able to stop the flood from happening. So, that it might be like, oh, he's just laying in cookies and he's getting hit. It's not. It's like you could feel when you're out there, you can feel it coming. You know, you got the Brave stuff on. There's a reason why the Braves, they start banging that drum. They know when it's coming, right? They can feel the pitcher's like his heart's starting to race a little. That drum starts going. In Philadelphia, you used to be able to feel it, man. When you start pitching poorly, that stadium would start getting louder and louder, and you'd be like, "Oh, here we go." And if you can't stop that, it's bad, right? You can have the best stuff in the world, but you're out there and you feel it. It's the only position really in sports where everybody there is staring at you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like nothing happens until you throw the ball. Everyone's looking directly at you. So I try to help guys with like, for me, someone helped me out with this. Actually, it was former pitcher Dan Herron. He gave me a tip of like he said he would just step off the mound. He would just find a spot in the stadium and he would just stare at it until like it went blurry, and then he would get back on the mound. And I thought that was the craziest thing I ever heard until I was getting rocked, and I'm like, I got to figure something out here. And I did it, and I was like, everything just released. I'm like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Got back on the mound and just went back to attacking. So, you don't forget how to pitch out there.
Right.
You don't. It's the same thing of like, do you guys golf at all?
I tried.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Everybody tries. All of a sudden, like, you're playing golf with your buddies, and it's like, oh, that putt's good, and then you're playing like in a different game, and you have like a 2-foot putt where your whole life that putt's been good. Now you got to putt it, and you miss it. You didn't forget how to putt.
Yeah.
You just got to experience things the first time and learn how to overcome it. Then you start making those, and it's like, oh, that's easy. I can just walk up here and hit it. But the first time you do it, it's like, oh, why was that so hard?
Yeah. So, what advice do you wish someone gave you about handling failure early in your career?
I think being an 18th round pick and being overlooked in the draft 2 times prior, kind of experienced failure early, right? Like I said, like I got pitcher of the year for the whole Southern League in Double A. I didn't get called up. The next year I started 5-1 in AAA, didn't get called up. Then I get told the next year after being an all-star in AAA that I'm not getting called up. So it was constant like adversity the whole time through. So I guess I'll just what I was just told was you just gotta have confidence in yourself and just continue doing like if you know you're prepared, whether it's the work and the studying the hitters, then everything else takes care of itself. So it really was just like continue working, continue putting the work in, because the second you back off the gas because you think it's not going the way you want to, that's it.
So, how I know I feel like this is very important. So, but how difficult is it to separate your identity from your performance?
So that's an incredible question. I actually talked about this. I did a podcast recently on kind of mental health and stuff, and that's the hardest. You know, you pitch bad, and then you go home and you're pissed off, and your wife's trying to talk to you. You don't want to talk to her, but she didn't give up 5 runs like I did. And then, you know, you got your kid looking at you who just wants to like go swimming or something the next morning, and you're still pissed about it. And you're like, so it's extremely tough. You know, my dad told me at one point, like, baseball is what you do, it's not who you are. That took a lot of time to understand. But I had a teammate tell me, Kevin Slowey once told me, and I guess somebody from the Twins told him this. He said, once you're done with the game, you're no different than, you know, an actor or performer on Broadway. You take your costume off, you go home. That's it. And even that took probably 2 or 3 more years after Kevin was long gone from our team to finally fully understand it. And it was like, it was probably around the time that my daughter was born, where I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, she doesn't care. She doesn't know. She's not reading the Twitter comments. Like, we're good. Everything's fine. But it's not easy because you feel like every time someone's looking at you, they're looking at like they're looking at what you did on the field the night before, not necessarily you as the person. So it does take a little bit of time to push through that.
So I want to pick your brain a little on something that you know, we don't really get to ask this question very often, but you have a very unique skill set. You went from playing, you know, you were part of the MLB Players Association, now an agent. You served as the Player Association player representative during your career. How did that opportunity come about, and what responsibilities came with being the player representative?
So, they have their annual board meetings every year, right? The executive board meetings where all players are allowed to attend. And the meetings, I live in Jupiter. I lived in Jupiter at the time too. The meetings were in Orlando. So Steve Cishek's like, dude, you should come. Like, I've gone last year, like, you should go. And I was like, I don't really want to go sit in a conference hall for 8 hours. He's like, Doug, you get like some really cool stuff. Last year we got a PlayStation. I'm like, dude, I don't have a PlayStation. All right, I'll come. And when they did, they gave like really cool like swag bags. But sitting there like, listening to guys like Jose Bautista share his feelings on things, and Max Scherzer, or just being in that room, I was like, I think I can help here. I think I had an interesting, take on things because I wasn't a superstar player. I didn't have a huge signing bonus at the time. I was just finished my first full year, I think. So I was like, I feel like I need to speak for the guys who don't already have $50 million. Because there's a lot of guys that played in the big leagues. Not a lot of guys have made, 50, 100, 200 million dollars, right? That's so how do we continue to help those guys make a ton of money, but protect guys like me also? And I kind of felt like, why let somebody else do it? I can just do it. So I started going to the meetings all the time. And up until that point, every player rep that I played with in Miami got traded. So the guy's the player rep, he gets traded, the alternate steps up, and that's exactly what happened. Steve got traded to the Cardinals, I became the player rep. 2017, I get traded to Toronto. Whoever was my alternate, boom, player rep. It was like clockwork. But I really enjoyed it. I sitting there in 2016 and sitting across from MLB and just hearing the conversations of not just what was being proposed, but why was really interesting and eye-opening stuff.
So what kind of conversations happen that we as fans don't get to hear?
It's just everything. Fans think that every time the CBA is negotiated, you just start with where you are and try to improve it. The truth is, it just gets completely ripped up, and you're starting over. Like pensions are being talked about. You're fighting everything again. So you'll hear people say, "Oh, why did you get rid of this?" I'm like, well, it's not as simple as that. Like, you want to make sure that the players of the past are still have their pensions and things. There's a lot of moving parts. But it's just interesting. Like, you'll have owners just talk to you and they'll, especially at that point, there was only like 6 players in the room and like 5 or 6 owners, and they weren't afraid to let you know, like, hey, you guys are baseball players. You're not lawyers. You might not understand some of this stuff, to try to get under your skin. Like, and to some degree, yeah, I don't understand. Like, legal jargon is the dumbest stuff on the planet. Like
Yes.
Like, that jersey's orange. We don't have to like come up with 14 words to describe that jersey. It's just orange. But legal jargon, it's like Latin mixed with, I don't even know. So to some degree they were right. Like, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the hell that means. But common sense wise, like, it was really important to me to make sure that baseball was played and that we can continue improving but it's gonna be every 5 years is gonna be a fight. It's just how it is.
So did those conversations change the way you looked at baseball?
I definitely realized even more so how much of a business it was. I had a veteran player tell me one time when I got sent down after spring training that to us, like, to the owners, the players are no different than a bushel of strawberries to a strawberry farmer. And if they can get cheaper ones and that, they're just going to replace you, and that you're just a number. You're just like you're an asset. You're not, like, the human being itself does not really matter. And I kind of understood what he was saying, but until I sat in that room, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. There's a reason you go into Major League Baseball headquarters and there's no heads on the mannequins. There's just player jerseys. So there's a mannequin with no head.
Yep.
Every single team has a uniform. There's no head. And to them, the name on the front is more important than the person wearing it.
Wow. So,
Yeah, so
that brings me to a question, because I'm curious, with the current CBA suggestions, we'll call them.
okay.
How do you feel that could affect baseball? Because ultimately we know it'll probably be a lockout.
Yeah, it's looking like that. I mean, you hope not, right? You hope that they
Right.
can come together and realize that we've got industries doing really well.
Fantastic.
It's popular. Like, let's not shut this down. But I've had a problem with a lot of the draft changes. I've had a problem with the shrinking of the minor leagues. Part of that is player problems, right? Like, you can't walk around as a minor league player for 30 years and be like, minor league players need to be paid more. You got to pay us more. And then they do. And they're like, well, how are you going to do it? We're going to cut, 3 levels out. So, there's 20 rounds now. They're talking about shrinking that. I mean, I just feel like you're missing out on a lot of the guys late bloomers who really love the game and could have been hard-nosed grinder type of players, right? Like, the draft is such an imperfect science. How many first rounders never make it to the big leagues? It happens a bunch.
I would say on average 4, if I've calculated right.
Right, and then out of the other ones though, like, how many of them really become superstars?
Yeah.
It's a low percentage. So if 4 are missing, well, you better have some guys from the 18th to the 20th round that are making it, too.
Yeah.
Right. So, You can afford to miss on a first round pick that you signed for $2 million if the 18th round pick that you signed for $1,000 is performing in the big leagues for you, right?
Yeah.
So if you take that away, there's just I played with so many guys who were 20 round picks who become all stars. You know that look at you got guys like I saw you had Heath Bell on the other day. He doesn't exist in the new
Yeah.
format. I mean, Mike
Yeah.
Piazza's the easiest one. He's a Hall of Famer. You know, like it's just to me, there was something special about the guy who played 10 years in the minors and finally makes it.
Yep.
You're not gonna see that a bunch anymore. They're paying the guys too much. You're not gonna they're making 40, 50, $60,000 at the higher levels now just before even getting to free agency. Like why would teams keep guys around? If they don't think they can impact the big league team, they're not going to keep them around as long. So that part upsets me.
So I know as now you're an agent. How does that affect being an agent now with knowing you don't know where it's going next year?
Well, that's the hardest part. It's like you're giving advice to guys for this year's draft, but like the landscape can completely change. You know, if they do eliminate high school players like they were talking about, does that mean there's going to be a run on high school guys this year where teams are going to try to draft as many as they can? You know,
Right.
like if the draft gets lower, like, you know, and it's not a coincidence that the NCAA now is allowing 5 years and they're talking about shortening the draft.
Yep.
And
See,
so
I
now
thought
you
that
got-
was
so
odd
now,
that happened.
so now you got guys that are going to be 24 years old. So if you draft a 24-year-old in the second round, where's he got to go?
Straight
What
to
do
the
you
major. He's going to have to
Triple
go.
AA at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to get him to the big leagues by the start of next year, so he's in the big leagues by 25.
Yep.
So I think it's looking like everybody's saying that they want the colleges to develop these guys instead of their own systems. I think that it's going to be tough because college right now is such a win now
Yes.
format that you're not going to you're not going to give time to a guy to develop them.
And that's the thing. We've talked to guys that were at the college level, and they've even said that there was no development. It was just go out there, hit, go out there, pitch, win the game. It's not about how
There's
can
too much money
how
in
can
it
I
now.
improve the player? How can the player get better?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, there's so much money in it now where it's like you got to go win, and if you don't win, the coach gets fired. So like, what's the coach going to do? He's going to bring in a guy off the transfer portal who's 24, but he started at either a mid-major or an ACC school before, so now you can put him in the SEC. It's like to me, I don't know. I'm romantic about baseball. I love the fact that you can see guys who grind through the minors and then have good long big league careers, and I think we're going to lose those.
Well, I was going to say, what if they're like you said, you struggled against guys with metal bats, but you succeeded once you put wood in their hand.
Yeah, I think
What
you
do you
just
get-
hope that hopefully the guy doing the scouting notices
Yeah.
that, right? They used to call them showcase ponies, where you'd show up, a guy would throw 15 pitches in one inning, he'd throw 98, and then he'd show up to spring training and he was like 94 because he didn't. That's all he could do it one weekend a year, but he couldn't do it
Yep.
consistently. I mean, I don't envy scouts for trying to figure out what guys can do over 162 games.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same as what they can do one weekend at a perfect game tournament.
And see, I feel like that's the biggest miss here is baseball growing, and now you're trying to restructure. You've shot yourself in the foot before. Why are we going to do it again? We can't come to the table with something everybody can agree with and make it, beneficial
Well,
for everyone.
The draft, I look at the draft now as just because I'm an agent. I care about
Yep.
player development and things like that. I can tell you right now that is not the biggest fight at that table. They're not. The draft is just. They're talking about the draft publicly because they don't want fans to hear the financial talk, because that you got millionaires fighting with billionaires, and then you got people at home struggling that maybe don't have money to put food on the table. They don't want to hear it. So everybody can discuss the draft, right? Everybody can kind of have an opinion on that. When you start getting in the weeds with all the finance stuff, like that's why that stuff's staying behind the scenes more.
Yeah.
Because I've seen one thing where they want to cut the length of contracts down to 5.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I've seen besides draft things. And me and him were talking. I was like, I'd love to pick your brain because you're an agent and a player representative. I feel like it's hurting what we hear as a fan because we don't know.
Well, as a fan, you want the player for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
but then think about how many times you get to that 5th year anyway, and teams are like, "Well, we got to trade him because we can't sign him."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Maybe maybe the 5-year contract gets more guys signed earlier because they're getting them now at their peak instead of waiting 6-year free agency where sometimes you see a decline, sometimes you don't. It's tough to get to free agency. It's 6 years. 6 years of service time is hard to get to become a free agent. So you're not affecting the majority of players with any of this stuff.
That's fair. So, really quick, because I know we're running close on time.
I'm good.
Okay. With your experience as an agent and everything, that puts you in a unique category, not only with the development of the pitchers, but also giving them advice going forward in their career. What's the biggest conversations you have with young players?
Well, the thing that might shock you guys, or maybe it won't, is like some players don't care. Like, you might get a player and be with him when he's younger, when he feels like he really can benefit from the support. It's such an interestingly competitive world out there, the agency world, where you might have a player help mold them to get to the big leagues, and then something shiny comes by, and one of the more concierge services can kind of take the guy. So it's hard. It's hard. Like you want to build a relationship with the guy. You want to show them that you have their back and support them. So some players are really into it, and they'll call and they want to. I only want to be involved as much as they want me to be involved too. Like when I was playing, I didn't want to hear stuff all the time from multiple people. So it's kind of like, you kind of get a gauge on which guys you can. Hey, I watched your start. This is what I saw. Like, let's work on this. Hey, how was your bullpen? Tell me about that. But the reality of it is, like, when I talk to these kids, I try to explain to them that we got to enjoy the ride, right? You got to enjoy the ride. The destination's the big leagues. A lot of people make it to the big leagues. Not a lot of people make it to the big leagues long enough to, either retire on the money that they made or be able to do something because they want to do it. Like, so it's not like rushing to get there is not always the best thing either. Like being patient. If there's a reason the team's holding you back and you feel like you should be getting called up, let's figure out what that reason is together. So when you do get the chance to get there, you stay, right? But also, let's put you in the position to where when you're done playing, whether it's Double A or big leagues, you gave everything you got, and you can leave the game feeling comfortable with that too. Like that's the biggest thing I stress. Like let's not leave anything behind. Let's make sure that everything we do, it's a small window. Like you can go do all the other stuff you want to do when you're done playing. Let's lock it in for this small window while you are playing.
Okay. Was that an easy decision for you though, to go from player to agent, or to step away in that aspect of the game?
No, I mean I retired in 18 I signed with the Dodgers to throw out of the pen for them, and I blew out my shoulder in spring training. The next year I signed with the Pirates on a 2-year rehab deal. The second year of that, my shoulder flared up again in spring training, and I was kind of like, I just can't. I'm done. It ended up being like, it was like March 2nd. I think the world shut down 5-10 days later because of COVID.
Yep.
So, I went from big league spring training to kindergarten homeschool teacher real fast. But, in that time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I love baseball. Like I love being around the guys, and I knew I wanted to be involved in like development somewhere. But having a young family, I didn't want to ride buses in Double A again as a coach. I didn't want to So if there's a big league job out there, great, but those are hard to come by. Like they're not just gonna call you and be like, "Hey, come be our big league bullpen coach." Like, so, um, and then my wife kind of brought up the point. It was like, even if you're like a double A pitching coach, every year you get 12 new guys. Like, you don't get to watch them really grow. Like, you may have a guy that you're like, "Oh, I remember coaching him, and now he's doing this," but you know, my agent called me and brought the idea of coming on, and it seemed like it made sense because now I can be there for the guy's whole career. Have a smaller group of guys that you get to mentor, and like honestly, like until you get to arbitration or free agency, like there's not a whole lot to do as
Okay.
far as like contracts with teams and things like that. So most of it is spent like just being a sounding board, somebody to talk to for these guys.
Okay.
And so I was interested in it, and it allows me to be home. I run the local softball program down here in Jupiter now, and get to coach my daughters and coach former teammates' daughters and things like that. So it's allowed me to kind of have a flexible schedule to do stuff.
See, and that honestly, I feel like that's what everyone dreams about, whether you work blue collar or not, to be able to have that work life balance like
Yeah.
that and still enjoy what you do.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's awesome. Like I can go see guys when I need to see them. It's 2026. The phone goes with me everywhere, so if it rings, I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's been fun, but I've enjoyed being able to be home and experience like the stuff with my kids and my wife and things like that, and be able to pour into them the time that like my parents poured into me. Whether it's driving one kid to hitting lessons or another kid to her euphonium practice. Like I'm driving them around somewhere. My wife just went to pick them up from surf camp. Like there's things going on all the time, and I wanted to be there for that because I played long enough to where I don't have to work. So if I'm going to work, I want to do something that allows me to do the important things.
I like that.
It's amazing.
So, with the idea of development and pitching and everything, we see a massive amount of Tommy John or blowing out or shoulders or injuries from overworking, really. If you could redesign youth pitching development from the ground up, where would you start?
Oh man, I wouldn't chase velocity until after puberty, at least. Even at the younger ages, kids. But the real problem is the tournament structure, right?
Yes.
It's so hard to even. So I mentioned Brad earlier. Like I coach Brad's daughter in softball. Brad coaches travel baseball, and we talk about this stuff all the time. Where he'll tell a dad like, listen, he shouldn't be pitching, and he's like, well, he's allowed to. Like he's allowed to. He only threw 50 pitches on Saturday, so he's allowed to throw another 50 on Sunday. And he's like, yeah, I get that they allow him to, but he shouldn't.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's I don't know if there needs to be like a more firm like, no, you're not pitching. If we find out you pitch your kid, like you're suspended from USSSA or something. But the pitch counts, it's just not. It's not good for the arms. Like they play so much. There's no off season.
No.
No.
Like big league pitchers, they don't October. They're not on a mound again until or their season ends in October. The next season doesn't start till April. But
Yep.
for some reason, Johnny's got to play a tournament in every single month of the year. Like that just doesn't make sense to me.
As youth coaches, I think parents, there needs to be a lesson on, hey, this is why we don't pitch your kid. Because I've had one mom do exactly what they did to Brad, but it was an hour later. We were in an all-star tournament, and she goes, why aren't you pitching my kid? I said, he just threw 60 pitches. He's done for the day. He's done till maybe Tuesday. And she's like, but if we lose, it's your fault because you didn't pitch my kid. I'm like, I'd rather take the L. I said, I'd rather take the L than your kid.
Well,
arm.
Unfortunately, like, parents are only doing what they think are best for their kids. But I think there's so much emphasis on like winning at the youth level that people are losing sight of like why the youth sports are being played.
Yes.
It's a battle that I have all the time. Like I I'd rather lose games and play the right way than win at 10U softball doing some crazy stuff. Like it's not worth it to me. You know, I told a parent this year, I'm like, listen, I was on a team that lost 100 games in the big leagues. Like losing a game at 10U is not going to bother me. We're going to be okay. Like we're going to be all right. And but back to pitching, it's just like there's no off seasons anymore. Like kids are just training to pitch, 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 pitch. You know, I didn't become a full-time pitcher until college.
Yeah.
Played multiple sports. I grew up in the Northeast, so it was a little easier to do. We were forced to take time off, right? Like
Yeah.
with weather, but it's like every time I talk to someone about it, my opinions don't matter. Like the things that drive me crazy is like I'll watch a clip from a really good youth sports podcast with like ex major leaguers talking. Like I just saw one the other day where like David Wright had a clip. And then you go to the comments and they're like everybody in there is like telling David Wright that he's wrong.
Yes.
Like why? Why is he wrong? Because like you think it's so important to do this at 10 or 12 years old? Like you ever think that maybe the guy who was arguably the best third baseman in Mets history might be right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think there's too many people who are losing the plot of what we're doing.
Agreed.
Like I talk to some parents now, and they've got it mapped out for like their kid's gonna go play high school there, and then go college here, and then drafted here, and it's like, dude, maybe.
Does the kid get a choice? You know,
Probably not. Probably not, though. Most likely not. And that's okay too. Like, are you playing the sport? Are you playing the youth sport because the kid loves it, or are you playing it because like you want to have a kid that played Division I in that sport? And so you can tell people that you had a kid that did it, and some people, even some of my closest friends, like I just don't know why, like what the end game really is. But I would have more finite pitch counts in youth sports. I would change the tournament structure to where like more midweek games are played, so you're not playing 6 games on a weekend to really put pressure on those kids' arms. And I would have a dead period of when you can't play.
Yep.
And
I agree with that. So, looking back, what are you most proud of as a pitcher or as a person?
Oh. Well, I guess what I'll say is I'm hopeful that when I played the game the right way, and to where like the guys that I played with would be like, he was a really good teammate who worked really hard. That's really important to me. That's what I try to not only my kids but the kids that I coach. You know, like you guys did research, but if I talk to somebody and I played, they're not going to remember my statistics off the top of their head, right? But they even the guys I played with, they're not going to know how many games I won in 2015. But hopefully they'll be like, hey man, that guy worked his ass off and he was a really good teammate. So that to me is what I'm hopeful for. And I think for the most part it's true. I mean, there's some guys that maybe won't think that, but that's all right.
Hey, everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah.
Some of them stink.
No doubt.
So, how do you, with all the lessons learned in baseball and everything, how do you feel baseball has made you better as a person, player, individual?
I mean, baseball is such a great sport because it mirrors like life to me. Like there's so much struggle that maybe doesn't seem like struggle, like it's not obvious struggle. You know, quarterback throws an interception, you know they failed. A pitcher you could walk 6 guys and give up 0 runs, right? So that might look like a successful day, but you're having an internal struggle. So it's like life. Like to the outside, it may look like things are going great, but nobody knows like the internal battles that are happening. So baseball is a great way of learning to work with others. You know, put other people's success ahead of yours sometimes. Think about a hitter who's got a sacrifices at bat by hitting a ground ball to second base, just for the better of the team. If you really learn that, later in life, you understand that sometimes it's not just about you. But now, in a not deep metaphorical way, baseball has given me so many good friends, like so many great memories. Like, it's taken me to so many different towns and cities across America that I never would have got to visit, had I not played. So, when I sit down on the couch at night, I can think of the story of, eating somewhere in Chicago or being on a bus in like a Mobile, Alabama, or a bus breaking down on the way to Mobile from Jacksonville, like something wild like that. So it just filled me with a life of like memories, so many memories.
So, well, my next question before we get into the rapid fire. On this podcast, we love to tell the stories. We love to tell the stories that people don't get to hear, something fun, the memorable. But what's
All right.
one story that you've never been asked to tell that maybe you wish people would have asked?
Well, I think it might be that bus breaking down. We were starting a trip from Jacksonville to Mobile, and like we were just getting on the highway, and our bus just broke down on the side of the road, just like right there in like just a random field, no air conditioning, nothing.
Oh,
You got guys trying to like sleep in the baggage area, like underneath the bus, because if you opened it up, there was wind that would go through, but you couldn't sleep on it. Um, I won't say his name, but we had a lefty reliever who just got sent down from the big leagues, who went on to have an outstanding career, and he was a highly touted prospect when he got drafted by a different team, and then was traded over to our team for a very, very, very known and powerful right-hand hitter.
yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. That's the greatest story we've ever had on this podcast.
That was pretty great.
Side note: his favorite player is Stanton, so that's why he's dying laughing over here. Because yeah,
Yeah, he'd gotten called up by that time. No, fair enough. So, with that, I'm gonna.
So I think I know who it is, but I'm not gonna say it because I think I know if I'm calculating correctly. I'll just ask after we stop recording. So then yeah. Because then if I get it right, then no one's in trouble. I will say one thing. Okay.
So, all right, I want to leave it with that for the serious questions. Chris has got his specialty of the fun, entertaining, rapid fire questions.
And this is the first
Before
time
we
I've actually
close
got
it
to
out.
change it, because me and you actually have something in common. I'm a Walt Disney World junkie. Like, I love Walt Disney World. Yes, I was very jealous. Because for our listeners, when we actually asked you to come on, you were actually going to my wife's dream Disney vacation in Hawaii. Yes, that is my wife's mission. She's like, we have to go. I'm like, really? We could do Paris or Japan. So favorite top 5 Disney World rides and of yours. What do you got? Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Same. %, agreed with that list. Now, okay. Favorite Guardian song on the ride? It's overrated in the ride, because I've got in September, and I'm probably the only Disney person that will tell you I'd rather have any other song. I was going to say, that is my son and I's favorite, is Conga, because we've gotten it 4 times. Oh, yes, one way. Yeah. All right. Favorite Disney snack? Okay. They're all the same. Okay, I'm curious. Which Star Wars bucket? Because there's a lot. Which one is your go-to? Oh, that's amazing. I have the Powerline Max from California. I actually paid a friend to go in the park, paid for their whole ticket and everything, just to get me the popcorn bucket. Okay. Well, it was only sold there. And I got it because my dad passed away, and it was our go-to movie. And I was like, you know what? It's going up on the shelf, and it's never gets used. And my daughter's like, we have a popcorn bucket we don't use. All right, one teammate that you could wish you had one at bat against, just for bragging rights. Who do you want to K?
Oh,
Okay. Most underrated player you ever played with?
ooh, right. So, I've got one for you. Best clubhouse prank without getting you or anyone else in trouble.
I don't know. I think the bus prank was pretty good if it would have went through. Oh.
Oh. Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't. Yep.
Okay, favorite bullpen story.
That's awesome. I've always heard we've heard some pretty good stories about pranks, and yeah, that's one of the questions we like to ask.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, sir, because I know you have a very busy week forward.
Well, we don't want to take up any more of your time, so we really appreciate you coming on. Sorry for going over, but thank you so much for talking to us. Guys, until next week, this is Inside the Foul.